Jesus, I am fucking dying.
I created death.
2025's Frankenstein is the 13th feature film from legendary Gothic horror director Guillermo Del Toro. It is around the 9th or 10th major cinematic adaptation of the classic Mary Shelley novel Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, which sees mad scientist Victor Frankenstein attempt to reanimate a sort of hodgepodge of corpses into a Prometheus, into a modern invention, in his attempt to circumnavigate death and his attempt to become a new god, a new career. Del Toro has, for many decades now, talked about his desire to adapt the novel, and that his belief that he could do it correctly, he could make this the most faithful adaptation of the book, and that he has essentially used this book as his guiding light, as his North Star. He did not want to do this until he reached a point where he really felt comfortable to do so. And as such, with all of that hype going into this, this was one of my most anticipated films of this year. And as such, I went back and reread Frankenstein for the first time since I was about 13, 14. So it was essentially a fully fresh and original read of the book. And whilst I think that the novel is absolutely excellent and is a real S tier beginning of Gothic horror, beginning of horror almost in general, the film kind of doesn't live up to the hype that Del Toro, whether explicably or inexplicably, has created for his own adaptation of the film.
What are you doing?
It is challenging, let's say, to look at this film as a adaptation of a book that I have not read, to judge this objectively. I'm just not going to do it. I don't think it'll be worthwhile and interesting for me to judge this film objectively as if I have not read the book. This film has kind of been billed as being one of the most faithful adaptations of the novel, because I actually think that there are significant changes to the structure of the film, to the themes of the film, that do it more damage than good, and in some sense attempt to over-justify and over-explain things that don't need explained. We saw this recently with The Last of Us Season 2, where they attempted to explain certain things about the game that were just kind of irrelevant and didn't need to be explained, as an attempt to make it more prestigious, or to make the plot and story bulletproof so that it is almost impervious to criticisms. Unfortunately for this film, I'm not coming to a fresh Frankenstein film in 2025 to learn about where on the body the electric currents have to enter the corpse. That's just not relevant and isn't interesting in 2025, considering, we all know the original story of Frankenstein. We know it has to do with electricity. We know he's using electric currents to reanimate the body. We know all that. We know about getting corpses and then taking an arm here, taking a face there. I don't really need to see it as much as this film thinks I need to see it. Now, with that being said, this is nevertheless an adaptation, so I can understand that some of this being involved, and you can't just skip over it entirely. Where my frustration really lies with this film in that regard is the fact that the film essentially takes about an hour and a half of its 2.5 hour run to go through Victor Frankenstein's full story and to really delve into why he did this, how he did this, and what it took to do this, and then only really allows an hour for Jacob Elordi to really delve into the character of the creature. And in 2025, the far more interesting thing to me is having this new actor in Jacob Elordi completely disappear into this character, completely delve into what he believes it means to be the creature, fall in love with a woman, have that ripped away from him, have the idea of death be ripped away from him. I don't care about the electric currents. I cannot stress this enough. I'm not calling this film unfaithful and then saying, oh, well, you should eliminate Victor Frankenstein from the film entirely. I'm not saying that. but there needs to be a better balance than what the film presents here. Unfortunately for the film, I think Jacob Elordi eclipses everyone else in this film. He is a cut above pretty much everyone and anything else in this film. Now, I will give credit to Mia Goth as Elizabeth. I think she really is dynamic in this film. She's kind of underutilized, isn't really given much to do. But as a scream queen of indie horror, as she is with Maxine, X, Pearl, Infinity Pool, she has really become a face of the new horror scene. She takes on a role in this where she doesn't have very much to do. She essentially is the audience's stand-in to make us feel for the creature, and she does that really well. She embodies that role. I will say that given that this is Gothic horror and that she has a very, no pun intended, Gothic look, it feels a bit weird to not have her more involved in the project, but whatever. Oscar Isaac, I think, this is a gross mischaracterization of the character of Victor Frankenstein, in my opinion. In the book, Victor is both arrogant and naive. Arrogant and naive. In the film, he's just arrogant, and unfortunately, that doesn't work, because what you have to believe with Victor is that he believes that he can control the creature. In this, there's never that pretense, and ultimately, with Oscar Isaac's Victor, you kind of want him to fail. You kind of want him to die. In the novel, you don't want him to fail, but there is an inevitability that this isn't going to work. But what we as readers are reading is going, how's this going to end? It's not going to end well, but how's it going to end? And with this film, it kind of has the ending that you want, which is that Oscar Isaac fails. Victor Frankenstein fails. And that's not something that I should feel about Victor Frankenstein. There has to be more of a sense of him coming to terms with his own failures and accepting that he is in the wrong. Elsewhere, the invented character of Christoph Waltz doesn't really do much for me. I can kind of understand why he's there for the film's thematic elements and essentially working as a bridge between Oscar Isaac and his invention, and Oscar Isaac's inability to make the invention without the resources and money. But again, this character is a symbol of, I don't need to know how this is being financed. I don't care. And then finally, Jacob Elordi as the creature. This guy disappears into this role in a way that we knew was capable of him, but I think we were kind of waiting for him to really put his hat on a performance. He's had Euphoria, he's had Priscilla, he's had these films where he's really had to delve into a character that is complex and has a lot going on, but he's never really been that focal point. He's never had a film where it's like, oh, this is his film. This film kind of robs that of him anyways. But when he is on screen, he is so much better than anyone else in this film. It is unbelievable. And in that regard, he kind of saves this film from being a complete disaster. And he transforms that last hour in the film from being a just a standard adaptation of Frankenstein to going, could Jacob Elordi win Best Supporting Actor? And it's something that I would be in favour of. He is kind of well known for being a face of the new generation, and he is someone that I really respect. He takes on really dynamic roles. He takes on really hard roles. I haven't liked everything he was in.
Oh no, not again.
He deliberately seems to challenge himself. He deliberately seeks out roles that are controversial and are complex, and I'm not excited for Wuthering Heights, but I'm excited to see what he does with that, because I know that even if the film is bad, that he is going to actually probably still be pretty good in it. He is really a cut above of the rest of his generation, in my opinion. He has the ability to take a creature that is killing people, that is breaking spines, and turn it into something that is lovable. And again, so much of that is built on his chemistry with Mia Goth. It doesn't really work if these two characters don't have synergy, if they don't have chemistry. And it's a credit to the both of them that I don't think this film is particularly great, and still I found their dynamic so believable. They're the real crux of this film. If they don't work, this film is a complete disaster. I don't think it's particularly good, but it still is saved by those two performances. There is clearly a sense of love that Del Toro has for this property, for this novel, but ultimately I don't think that a lot of his themes and his concerns, I don't think a lot of what he does in terms of explaining the plot, I don't think it's actually worthwhile. That being said, if Del Toro was to win Best Director for this film, I don't think it would necessarily be deserved for what is actually on camera, but he has that like granddad sort of feel where I'd be like, you know what? Let's give the guy the award. Who cares? I'm not upset or I'm not confused as to why people love this film or have thought it's great. I'm kind of still happy for Elordi, for Mia Goth, and for Del Toro that this film has worked, because I think that there's a good crop of talent there that really has care and dedication to this material. It is just from my own interpretation of that book. I think a lot of this film kind of falls flat and is unnecessary in what it's trying to do.